Do you have a meditation practice, or you're considering a meditation practice and want to help it be better? Today we're going to look at 10 tips to help meditation be better. I'm Doug Smith of the Online Dharma Institute. That's onlinedharma.org. If you're new to this channel and interested in living a wiser and a kinder and a calmer life, consider subscribing to this channel and click the bell down below if you want to receive notifications when I come out with new videos. Today we're going to have a bit of fun, consider 10 different ways that we can improve our meditation practice, and at the end I'll include an extra bonus tip that'll help bring it all together, I hope. So let's start. Tip number 10 is wear loose clothing. I think many of us have tight clothing on during the day. We may have the need to put tight clothing on at some point, but we'll find that if we do that, meditation becomes more difficult. It becomes more onerous because we can't breathe properly. We're oftentimes not comfortable. And if we can't breathe properly and deeply and we're not comfortable, then our meditation is not going to be as smooth and calm as we might like. So the first tip here, that number 10, was going to be to wear relatively loose clothing, as loose as you can manage. That'll make your meditation somewhat better. My 9th tip is going to be to meditate after you get out of the shower. Meditate after you are done exercising. Because if we meditate after we're done exercising, let's say, the exercise, the shower, are going to invigorate us. They're going to wake us up. They're going to fill us with energy, that kind of energy that we get after having done physical work. And that energy then can infuse our meditation and keep us alert and awake. Because I think some of us will know that one of the dangers in meditation is that we get sleepy. And that's normal, we will get sleepy at times. But if we can manage to do meditation after we're exercised, then we'll find that we're not as sleepy as we ordinarily would be. And then we'll gain great benefits. My 8th tip for improving our meditation practice is to not meditate right after having a meal. I know sometimes we don't have a choice. We have a limited amount of time in our schedule, and the best time we have perhaps is right after lunch or dinner or something like that. But if we do that, we'll tend to find that we sort of nod off. Because the blood all goes to the stomach while we're digesting our food. We tend to be relaxed after having had a meal. We tend to be full, perhaps over full if we've eaten too much. All of these things tend to produce in us a sense of lethargy, a sense of wanting to lie down and take a nap. And that's kind of not the right place we want to be if we're going to have a very good meditation session. Now, if we're going to meditate after a meal, I think probably breakfast is our best option, because we tend, at least I tend, to eat a relatively small breakfast. Maybe you're not that way. Maybe you eat a big breakfast, in which case maybe you're not going to be happy there. But in any event, if you can do the meditation before eating, that would be a better option. My 7th tip to improving your meditation is to pick somewhere that's relatively quiet and isolated. Now, this is perhaps not unusual to say, but it's important to keep in mind anyway. And I will say also that there are meditation teachers who say, be happy with the noise. There's a very famous story from Ajahn Chah, who was a meditation master in Thailand. And apparently once there was, in one of the neighboring villages, they would have festivals that would go on all night long and have very loud music. And some of the monastics, I believe they were Western monastics who were practicing under Ajahn Chah, were bothered by this noise, this continual music during these festivals. And they knew that Ajahn Chah was well known and powerful in that sense in the local community. And so they went to Ajahn Chah and said, why don't you go and have a talk with these people in this village next door and tell them please to turn the music off, at night or at certain times of the day so that we can do our meditation in peace. And Ajahn Chah just said to them, don't bother the music. That is, your mental state, your anguish, your anger, your upset, it's just bothering the music. So we have to think of the problem as being on our side rather than on the music's side. And if we think of it that way, then we're not going to have a problem with meditating in a loud place. But to be fair, the Buddha himself was not happy with loud noises. The Buddha himself particularly disliked the noise of people chattering. And if his monastics were being too loud, the Buddha would at times either leave or tell them to leave. So it can go both ways. But in any event, for those of us beginners, it's best to pick some place that is relatively quiet and isolated so that you can meditate in peace. My sixth tip to make meditation better is to pick a posture that is alert and yet comfortable. And this is something of a paradoxical kind of thing, because to be alert means to have a certain amount of tension in the body, and yet we want it to be comfortable in the sense that it's not difficult to maintain this posture over the period of our meditation, however long that might be. That might even be a half an hour, might even be 45 minutes. So what we want, however, is a position that keeps us awake. Now, some people will prefer, let's say because of back problems or whatever, they'll prefer to do meditation lying down. Now, lying down it's a perfectly normal, it's a perfectly normal form of meditation. It's mentioned in the early texts. But for myself, I don't find that as useful for the most part, because if I were to lie down, I would probably end up falling asleep half the time. So for myself, I would recommend a meditation that is seated, that is erect, that is dignified, either on a cushion or on a chair. But if on a chair, then not sitting back into the back of the chair, but rather supporting the body in front of the chair, at least in the front part of the chair, shall we say. And in doing that, we're going to have to maintain the spine erect, which is going to involve us having to put a little bit of tension in the body, not too much, but a little bit. And that little bit of tension is the kind of thing that can keep us alert. And that alertness will, on its own as well, help us to remain more involved mentally in what we're doing. And that will make our meditation better. My fifth tip on improving our meditation practice is to try not to fidget. This is something that for some of us comes as second nature, that is, we just don't fidget naturally. But for others of us, it may be difficult not to fidget. And why shouldn't we fidget? Because fidgeting around, moving, tends to distract us. It tends to be a good way to deal with, shall we say, the quiet nature of meditation practice by not dealing with it. That is to say, we deal with the quiet by making our own noise in our body, by moving around, by considering other postures, by trying things out, so that we're not really ever getting into a concentrated state of mind. And so if we're doing that, we're tending to sort of wake ourselves out of the meditation, if you like, constantly. Now, I will say that there are some people, at least I've heard, who are able to get very, very deep forms of concentration even while fidgeting around. And if you're that sort of person, then feel free to, leave this particular suggestion of mine to one side. You'll know for yourself if the fidgeting is something that you're doing because you're bored and want to sort of do something else, or not. If it is because you're bored and want to do something else, then it's best to deal with the boredom on its own terms, that is to say, become aware of it, rather than try to manifest it through fidgeting. That'll make your meditation better. I should also say that if you're meditating in a group, then fidgeting has its other problems, which is that you may be distracting other people around you. That is to say, they may hear you fidget or see you fidget and themselves be distracted. So for that reason, if you're meditating in a group, there's more reasons to avoid fidgeting so that you can help make meditation better for everybody else. Now, my number 4 thing or option for you to improve your meditation is to consider meditating early in the day. I find that doing meditation in the morning, especially relatively soon after I get up or after I do exercise, is helpful because the calm and concentration that I gain from that meditation does help to perfume the rest of the day, just in the same way that if you exercise in the morning, it helps you gain energy for the rest of your day. Now, I understand that some people are not going to be able, perhaps you don't have the time to do it in the morning, and the only time you have is perhaps right before you go to bed. And if that's the case, then so be it. It's not a huge difference. But if you do have the option to do it earlier in the day, at least consider it. Try it out and see how it works. My own feeling is that it'll tend to make meditation more useful to you, and so therefore make meditation better. Tip number 3 for making meditation better is to take a couple of deep breaths as you first sit down to meditation. A complete inhale and a complete exhale. And you might take 2 or 3 of those just as you sit down to meditate. You'll find that this kind of complete inhalation and deep exhalation will tend to settle the nervous system. It'll tend to calm you down. It'll tend to, shall we say, put the mind into the right place in order to be in meditation. And I think as you practice this kind of deep inhalation and exhalation, just a couple or 3, not too many, you'll find that that becomes a technique that you can take from your meditation practice out into your everyday life, and it's something you can make use of in difficult circumstances. So if you find yourself in a particularly stressful circumstance, simply taking a deep breath and then a full exhale can help settle you down. It can help reduce stress at least a little bit in what you're dealing with in the moment. So try this out and see if it actually does settle you down. Now, you might be that you need to do this several times during a period of meditation practice. Try it out, see if it works. I think it'll make your meditation practice better. Now we're getting to the really good ones, I think. The number 2 tip for improving your meditation practice is to read a little bit about mindfulness meditation. Or, alternately, watch some videos. Indeed, I have some of my own videos on mindfulness practice, on the various forms of mindfulness practice, how they're done and what they're all about. I'll put links to those videos down in the show notes below in case you're interested in learning more. But that's one way that we can really improve our practice, is by getting to know the practice better. That is, yes, of course, we can sit down without much knowledge and do ordinary breath meditation, focusing on the breath and paying attention to the present moment. But if we learn more about the scope of Buddhist practice, about what the point of it is, about what we're trying to achieve, about the various different kinds of meditation practice that we can aim ourselves at during our time on the cushion or wherever, we'll expand out an entire universe of possibilities that we simply weren't aware of before. And we'll expand out a real universe of different things that we can pay attention to that perhaps we hadn't even thought about or noticed. And in so doing, I think we'll make meditation practice much, much better. Now, I'll have a bonus tip in a moment, but my number 1 normal tip, shall we say, for improving our meditation practice is to meditate at the same time every day, or at least to set up a regular meditation practice. Meditation is a practice that takes time. A lot of us, of course, in the modern world, we're impatient. We want results right now. We want to be able to do something that will change our lives in a moment. And much of what we read and hear about in the media or in magazines involves ideas, thoughts, practices that are supposed to change our lives in an instant. Meditation, honestly, is not one of those. Meditation has the most similarity to doing exercise, to jogging or weightlifting or whatever, some form of exercise that we do for months and years. And it's the sort of thing that we're not going to notice any particular difference tomorrow or maybe next week, but if we look back over a month of practice or a year of practice, I submit that we'll notice how much different things look. If we put the time regularly into it, if we do it every day, If we're only going to do it once a week or once a month, it's the same as, let's say, going out and doing exercise once a week or once a month. Of course, a little bit is better than nothing, but we're going to find that we will improve our meditation practice enormously by keeping to it, by having the gumption, the stick-to-itiveness to keep going every day. So having a routine is essential. Now, bonus point. What is the best way to improve our meditation practice? Well, from a Zen perspective, and I think there's a good deal of insight in this way of approaching things, the best way to improve our meditation practice is to stop worrying about improving our meditation practice. To worry about improving our meditation practice is to miss the forest for the trees. Because even a bad day of meditation is good, because it gives us insight into the way our world is right now. That is, if we're only looking for the pleasant stuff in meditation, we're missing a great deal of life. Because a great deal of life just isn't pleasant. And we have to learn to deal with that. We have to be able to look at that as part of our learning experience. Indeed, in many ways, it's our unpleasant days of meditation that are perhaps our best meditation days. The meditation days that go pleasantly and quickly and where we're happy and so on, those may be very nice, but it's not clear that we really learn anything from them, at least not always, many times we don't. Whereas a particularly hard day dealing with the vicissitudes of the mind, the unpleasant states of mind that normally inhabit us, that can be a real source, a deep source of learning, and a deep source of insight, and indeed a source of potentially breaking through to a deeper understanding of the way our lives really are. So I would caution us not to be too stuck on this idea of making meditation seem better. It's best, I think, to take meditation as it is, as it comes, and to be able to be happy with that, and to understand the way that meditation brings us our life in all of its complexity. And in so doing, it does us a great service. If you want to know more about meditation, I would check out my video on mindfulness for beginners. It's a great place to start if you really don't know very much about this or would like another refresher. I'll put a link to that video right up here on the screen. If you're getting something out of these videos of mine, please check out my Patreon page and consider joining us there. Thanks so much, and we'll catch you on the next one of these videos. And meanwhile, all of you, be well.